Hi, hello. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, or depending on where you are to following this program. We're really happy to have you here. And if you are here, you know about this new initiative from ASTC that we have called ASTC On Air. I am Walter Stavlo, the Director of International Relations, and I'm very lucky to be the first one to launch this initiative. If you are here, you know that our aim is to bring to you experts into your science centers when it matters, not only once a year at the conference or at a time, but when it matters. And so we hope that over the next months, when we have more guests, some of their knowledge will inspire the work that you do on a daily basis in your science centers. We have chosen for this first edition to speak about women in science, women in computing, obviously because last Sunday was the International Women's Day, and for some time now, a lot of organizations, including science centers and ASTC, have been doing activities related to supporting girls into scientific studies or staying in the careers that they have chosen if they are science careers. So no better person to talk about that than our guest of today, Rane Johnson-Stempson from Microsoft Research, who has really been very, very vocal and active over these topics over the last years and over her career. She's with us from Texas, not in her office, but Rane, thanks for being with us today. And I would say thanks to be so brave to be with us, because this is the first time and a lot of things can go wrong. So again, we hope it's not, but so you never know. So Rane, let me be very personal to start with. We're going to speak about you and what you do, but it was the International Women's Day on Sunday. What have you been doing on Sunday?
So last week we were at the UN, and in partnership with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the United Nations and the United Nations Women, we launched a two-day event on women empowerment. And in the two-day event, we really talked about what is really required for us to push the economic development for women. And we know from research that if you raise the economic development of women, you raise the economic development of families and of countries. And so we went into STEM education, we went into healthcare, environment, we also went into violence against women and families. And then we also showed our film, Big Dream, and how we changed the message to young girls around the world so that they see how they can make an impact and a difference through science and computing.
Great, and we will come back on that movie, I'm sure, over in this conversation. So you have been devoting a lot of your time to supporting girls and in computing and science, etc. But yourself, as a young girl, were you aware of what you wanted to do, what your career should be? Did you want to go into science, and for what reason?
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of split screen to my PowerPoint, because I like to give people images and not have you watch me the whole time. And so if you see in the corner there's a little Atari. And so when I was 3 years old, for us older generation, my brother was 7 years older than me, and he played the Atari constantly, and he was playing it for hours and hours. And you know, as a 3-year-old, I know that if I play for hours and hours, I get really thirsty and tired. And so I was trying to explain to my brother that we weren't doing a good job taking care of his Atari, and it must be really tired and thirsty. And of course, my brother ignored his baby sister, thinking I had no idea what I was talking about. And so I proceeded to go into the kitchen, get a glass of milk, and I walked in and poured the glass of milk on the Atari. And I said, I told you it was thirsty, and we need to take better care of our items. And of course, you know, smoke started flying out. My brother was very, very upset. And as good parents, we lived across the street from Disneyland in Los Angeles. My dad takes my brother to Disneyland to calm him down, and my mother is a first-generation Vietnamese, so she goes into the kitchen as a good mother and cooks his favorite meal. I, on the other hand, had no idea why everybody's upset, but obviously something's wrong, so I go into my father's office, pull out the toolkit, get the tools out, and begin to take the Atari apart. I run into the bathroom, pull the toilet paper, and pull it all the way into the living room, begin to dry it off, and at 3, you don't have a lot of dexterity. And so what I believe is I'm taking things apart and fixing it. Of course, I'm breaking the Atari. But at that age, my parents then knew I really was an engineer and that I was always taking things apart, building things. There's a show on PBS in the United States back when I was growing up called 3-2-1 Contact that had all of these engineering and scientific experiments that you can do in your kitchen. And so my poor mother didn't really understand what I was doing, but she would get all of the ingredients I expected so I could make all of these experiments. And kind of my plan ever since I was a little girl was either, number 1, be an Olympic gymnast like Nadia Comaneci, or my backup plan was to become an astronaut. And so I'm kind of focused on the engineering all my life, and I ended up becoming a mechanical engineer, and then moved into computer science engineering because I worked all through high school and college in computing centers, building computers, working on computers, building firewalls, and haven't left it since.
So you would certainly not recommend on young girls to pour water or milk on the computer of their brothers, right? We can have to say, don't do that at home right now.
Exactly.
But it's a good, you've got good advocate for the makers movement as well right now with saying that, what I hear you say is that, doing this kind of things and breaking them apart and see what's in there, and even if you cannot really repair it, it's something that you learn, and you say you may not be having the dexterity, but at least you had the ideas and you try to do something. So, okay. Well, that's how it started. Great. So, and now you are at Microsoft, and if you can tell us a little bit of the big research activities that you are busy with right now, so that would be interesting for our listeners, I guess.
Yeah, so I work for Microsoft Research, and as many people know, we have about 1,000 researchers globally all over the world who work in 65 different computer science research disciplines and areas, and so with that, I've been really focusing on how do we make a difference in growing more women in computer science, and to really do that, we need to change the message. And when I mean changing the message, it's really looking at areas that can impact the world. And so I've been working on some major projects. That the first is really looking at how can we eradicate human trafficking of minors utilizing technology. And so if we can show young women how they can help more women and young boys through the advances of technology, we can make a difference. And through the work that we've been doing in that, what we found is there's been so many people in the last 40 years working on human trafficking, but computer science hasn't been involved. And so it's really been, legal, business, psychological services, and there hasn't been a lot of cross-group collaboration. So our hope was, can we bring together a group of computer scientists with these other disciplines to really look at the extent of the problem, and then if we understand the extent of the problem, then we can begin to build technologies to disrupt. And so when we look at that, the next big project that we really looked at is middle school girls' perceptions. What we found is, that is the age when we look at 10 to 13 where we start to lose girls in math, science, and technology classes, and especially computer science. And what we were trying to figure out is what's happening. And so I'd had some focus group sessions with rural areas, suburban areas, urban areas to see, are there different perceptions that young women have? Are there different things that happen from socioeconomic class or location, and what are some of the things that are holding our daughters back? And then could we create an online community that really empowers them to want to make, to want to build, to want to be inventors? Because there's a lot of websites out there, and I'm sure all of you know them, with sci-fi girls and engineer girl and .NET diva. But if you ask young women, they've been to none of those websites, or they go one time and never come back. And so how do we make it sticky? How do we make it a place that they keep wanting to come back to and learn more? And so we've been doing a lot of research in that area, and then now we're partnering with UN Women, National Girls Collaborative Project, and Girl Scouts to really extend kind of the focus group research we've done to more qualitative analysis and sending out the survey globally to really get at what those unintentional consequences are. And then a third project that we've been working on that we started 4 years ago on this journey was how do you look at the history of everything, and how do we kind of transform education and help students see that if they don't like the way they're learning, they can build and create new ways of learning. And so we've been working with University of Moscow, UC Berkeley, Tacoma, Seattle, several universities, and working with students to be able to visualize all of history from 13.2 billion years ago in today in a browser, and then letting people build their own stories, pull in data, all types of data, compare data, build timelines, and all of it has been built by students, graduate and undergraduate students, and really showing that as scary as computer science and electrical engineering looks like, as scary as technology looks like, it isn't that hard, and that everybody does have the capabilities to become innovators and producers. And here's how you can make, you know, world-making projects that make a difference. And so those are just a few of the projects we've been working on.
So what I'm hearing from you is two things, and tell me if I'm wrong. But the first thing is actually the environment and what you use computers for and the technology for is maybe even more important than learning the technology itself when it comes to stimulating girls and getting their attention to the thing. So that's the one thing. The second thing is it's not so hard. So these are the two things that I hear from now. But another question then is, you speak about working in Moscow and in other places, and I know, and yourself, you are also from Vietnamese descendants, I hear. Do we have the same problems in every part of the world? Do girls react the same way everywhere?
No. So I mean, there are some commonalities when we think about implicit biases and stereotype threat, where, you know, all of us have grown in a society where men have predominantly had the jobs, led the family, and the women have taken care of the family. And so in those perspectives, there are some biases of, well, this is things that girls are better at, and these are things that boys are better at. I think where it changes across the world is that in some societies, you know, there is a different level of parent engagement and parents pushing their children by saying, you know, you will be an engineer or you will be a doctor.
We are not speaking about Korea, do we?
Of course not. And there are some countries where, you know, there is an expectation you will go to a computer science program, period, and you will be the next Bill Gates, and I don't care if you're a girl or a boy. But then there are cultural things that may change, where they may go into a computer science program or a biomedical engineering program at a university level, but then there's an expectation you will work 1 year, maybe 2, and it's to get a great husband and then go home and be a mother. And so I think that there are things in different cultures that we need to show where women can still be a fantastic engineer and a fantastic mother. And so much are companies now doing the right benefits, the right virtual working with technology like we have today, that makes it okay that a woman can be an engineer or a manager and can go home and be part of her child's volunteering at the school or taking them to an after-school program. And I think that across the world it's beginning to change. I think in certain areas there are still some atrocities against women that we still have to get over, but overall there are probably more similarities than differences today.
But you confirm that actually the problem may be bigger to keep them in science and in technology or in the career rather than getting them into there, right?
Yes.
That may be different in different parts of the world. Inside of the US, do you notice any kind of differences between girls from different ethnicities, maybe?
Yeah, because I think, when you look at different ethnical backgrounds, there's a lot of different cultures and things that are, more important in one society versus another. And there is different engagement. And in different cultures and ethnic backgrounds, because of, I can even say it as a first-generation immigrant to this country. My mother never learned English in a fluent manner, so she couldn't read or write it. And so at a young age, you're figuring everything out by yourself. And so, as much as my mom and dad were great supporters and would do anything to help me be successful, I was doing my mother's taxes at age 10. I was changing the oil in the car at age 10. And, a lot of my friends were having fun and playing in the streets and, being put in through back then there weren't computer science camps, but they were, had the engineering camps and those things where a lot of first generation don't have the dollars to put their children in that. And so no matter how good a student they are and how hard they are already going to be behind. And if we look at where a lot of our different ethnic groups live in the country, those schools tend to be not as rigorous, don't have all the honors programs and the things that different ethnic groups may have. And so I think the thing is like, how do we help with more informal programs, or how do we help create, and this is one of the things Microsoft Research does, is create online virtual free programs that if they can't get it in their school, they can do it on their own. And then how do we connect, for example, to ASTC centers who can take these programs, make sure they're on computers, and give kids opportunities to say, hey, well, if you don't have it at school, you can do it here, and let us help you and show you what you can do. And I think it's starting to happen. You're starting to see a lot of organizations, community centers, museums, and places really reach out to those at-risk youth and then youth from different ethnicities to really show them that we're here to help you and you're not alone. And you've got awesome parents, but they may not know all the things to help you, so let us help you.
So are there also different environmental elements, like topics that are different for depending on the ethnic groups that are interested in? Yeah.
So if you think about it, and this is a gross generalization, so I'm going to say this from everybody is different, but if you look at from a gross generalization, a lot of young Asian students want to make a big impact in the world. They want to change the world. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to build prosthetics and help people and make a difference. And then if you look at Hispanic societies, though, they're very close to their family. Culture is very important. They may not want to move far away. They want to have a university or a school nearby, and they want to work on problems that'll help their community. Same with African Americans, because those students who are superstars are very, very dependent. Their families need their help. There are expectations that are happening there. And so saying we want you to change the world may not resonate with them. Now, of course, there are plenty of young African American girls I work with that want to change the world. But if we can say, by going into computer science and doing this, here's how you can help your neighborhood. Here's how you can help your own family. Here's how you can do these things, where then they can begin to see, here's how I help the people closest to me, and then I can help the rest of the world. And so I think the thing is, we need to balance the message of changing the world, because not everybody wants to change the world, but here's how you impact your own life, your own family, your own community, and then the bigger world.
And then seeing how computer science is really central to that. I know you have a number of slides in here that you have prepared that show the importance of the computer sciences, the computer field as a whole. Can you maybe share with us a little bit of the figures that you have brought together to show and how the evolution is going to be over the years that show that it's not only change the world, it's not only change your community, but the central element to do that, or one of these, is using computer science?
Yeah, so, I think I'm not going to say all of these statistics, but just share a few. I think that if we help tell our students and help them understand the vast amount of numbers and the uses of technology, if you look at ODC and labor statistics, they have said that by 2025, 90% of all jobs in the world will require some type of ICT background, and more than just digital literacy, like real programming skills. And then if we look at where things are going with cloud computing, over 70% of all businesses today are looking and using or investigating how can they do cloud services. And if we think about accessibility, there are more than 650 million people around the world with some disability. And if we think about how do we help them, it's going to be through technology and computing that will better their lives. And then if we think about why are women so important, there was research that came out that, before the coveted age for all tech companies were males 18 to 24, that whatever they wanted, we were doing. And a few years ago, the coveted population now are women 40, 50, and 60, that they are 85% of all the buyers of consumer electronics, online services, cloud computing, and that they spend more than $55 billion in this area. And so having 90% of the technology built by men, and not to say anything bad, I love my husband, but at the end of the day, does he really know what I like, and does he get me what I really want? Not so much so. And so I think that we really need to really change our students and the opportunities and show them how exciting of a field this is. And when we think about all of, if you ask Europe, if you ask the United States, if you ask Latin America, they will all tell you of all these open technology jobs and not enough people to fill them. And if you look at, over 40% of the labor force in the world is represented by women. If we get more women to get excited about technology, we can start filling these gaps. And, one of the things that I get really passionate about is our opportunity in technology.
Rane, can I interrupt you for a second? Can you go back to the slide that you have just before?
Yes.
So that's white. Okay.
Yes.
So you have the on the top left you have the 49%, and on the lower right you have the 90%. Exactly. So the difference between these two things, it says 49% of new products and services come from diversity-led innovation teams. And then and on the bottom right it says 90% of technology products and services are designed by men. So how do you explain that difference?
So if you look at it, if you look at the most innovative solutions, so it's not saying all, but if you look at the most innovative and the best new products and services, they are led by diverse teams. Now, those diverse teams could be a team of 5 men, but one man is African American, another is Hispanic, another is Indian, another one may have a hearing disability. Okay. And so I think the thing that we're seeing, and then some of the most innovative solutions do have teams that have women on. Unfortunately, there are very few women, and so I think what we're trying to show is diversity is more than just women. Okay. Even though it's a very important component, we need to think about socioeconomic class, culture, geography, disability, because all of those issues really help transform how we look at a problem and make an answer to it.
Yeah, I thought I understood it in that way, but I wanted to make sure that that was clear for everyone. Okay, sorry again, and please go ahead with what your opportunities are.
No problem. And so one of the things that we've been really trying to tell folks, we talked about that data already. So forward, it is how we need to change the message. And so, you know, I think a lot of us feel, gosh, we've been changing this message, but still, I think today, women haven't heard how science and engineering, and especially computer science, is a creative field, is a collaborative field, and is a way that they can change the world. Because they want to be creative, they want to work on teams, but when they see things on television, if they hear things, they think that it's a very analytical, by myself, boring thing that I don't get to work with people, and they don't realize that almost all projects today take a multidisciplinary team, takes a lot of people to build a solution, not just one, that it takes a lot of creativity and problem solving, and that you are changing the world. I think girls tend to grow up in K-12 education thinking, if I want to make a difference in the world, I have to be a doctor, a teacher, psychologist, social worker. And we haven't been able to show them, well, if you're an engineer, here's how, and I'm going to show you a couple of things here, you know, here's how we help people with paralysis and make them have normal lives. It's because of a mathematical algorithm that we created in Hotmail to stop spam that will help us build a solution for fighting HIV. So this is why you should care about learning math and science so much. You know, it's for those who are the most vulnerable in tribal areas where they're not literate, but their lives matter. It's creating solutions with technology where we can do speech to text and to get their stories out to the greater world so that we can stop atrocities, we can help them tell their stories, we can help do better storytelling. And if we want to help ALS patients, have them have a normal life, it's going to be technology like we created here called Ability Eye, that with eyesight, I can then have communication with my family. I can move my wheelchair that I could never do before. And so it's by telling these stories and really showing them come to life. And I think of ASTC centers as the best thing because you've got so much science going on there that we can much better tell these stories to help young girls see, wow, this is a great place for me.
So before we go to the big dream, maybe, I need to ask you that question. Last Sunday, International Women's Day, the National Science Foundation posted something on Facebook, and it was a positive story, actually. But in the margin of that story, they said, well, actually, in the 80s, close to 40% of the computer students were girls. And today, only 15% are girls. What did we do wrong, Rane?
You know, we're not sure, but there's a lot of hypotheses that we have. And so, you know, the hypothesis kind of lean into three directions. One is, in the past, before the 80s, most computer science programs were in the College of Arts and Sciences. And women tend to have lots of interests. And so I want to take a little bit of this, I want to take a little bit of this, I want to take a little bit of this. And in the 80s, the transition started happening where computer science started moving into engineering schools. And in engineering, a lot of, back then, I think it's changing now, there was, this is very, very hard. Look to the right, look to the left, and one of you will not be here tomorrow. And young women tend to not have the confidence. You know, research has shown that women will think they have a C when they have an A, and young men will think they have an A when they have a C. And so if you're just told that one of you aren't going to be...
Why is that so familiar?
Exactly, and if you're told one of you aren't going to be here anymore, and here's this mathematical equation, if you can't solve this, maybe you shouldn't be an engineer. You know, a lot of girls begin to drop out and think, oh, I'm not good for this. And so that's one of our hypotheses. I think the other thing happened is in the 80s, you know, began this computer revolution, and all the words you were hearing was, you know, how these guys dropped out of school and created this great new solution. Here's how these guys delivered this in their garage. Here's how these guys... And the whole discussion about how computer science was started by a woman, Ada Lovelace, the very first compiler was done by a woman, Grace Hopper, kind of went out of our vocabulary. And so young girls began to think computer science and tech is a male field and not a woman's field and not a place that I can be good at. And a lot of women are really good at mathematics, and computer science departments started going away from the math department and we're in engineering departments. And I think that that's where today a lot of us are trying to change, the conversations, really showing, how exciting computer science is, how if you're good at mathematics and problem solving, you're great here. And then I think a lot of the times back then in the 80s, our earlier programming languages, I took Pascal and Fortran. Those were very abstract, very hard, very mathematical.
I can tell.
And today our programming languages are totally different. We've made them much more gooey. We've made them much more easier. We're able to pull scripts. And so I think that scariness and abstraction is gone now. And so I think that we're going to begin to see the numbers start going up. We're already seeing that happen at Berkeley and Stanford and Harvey Mudd and University of Singapore and Korea with Ewha University. And so I think we're starting to see the uptake, but I think all of us were very devastated to say we had such high numbers and then they've gone down.
Exactly. And so is the big dream movement going to change anything to that?
We hope so. So
can you tell us about it?
Yeah, sure. Let me move towards that. Let me make sure I have the right slide here. There we go.
I don't know if you hear it. But we are very close to the White House, and there is a demonstration on the bottom of our building right now. So you may hear some interference from that.
Oh, no problem. So, so what the Big Dream movement is all about is a year ago, I had a filmmaker come to me, and it was probably perfect timing, where she really wanted to create a film about girls in STEM because she's been hearing all these alarming statistics, and she's like, I can't believe this is true in this day and age. And it was the perfect timing because of all of the research that I was doing. I was finding we really need to figure out a way to change the message. And the thing that really helps people gravitate and come together is through movies and through storytelling. And so we created a film that follows the lives of 7 young girls all over the world. So we have a young African-American student who was homeless and now wants to change a revolution of computer scientists. We have a young Hispanic girl. We have a young girl from Costa Rica. We have 2 young women from the Middle East. We have a young woman from Africa, a young woman from Europe, and a young woman from Middle America, farming country, Iowa. And what we really want to show young women is there are women that look just like you. There are young women who have gone through challenges very similar to yours, and they see that they can make a difference in the world through computer science and engineering. They see how that they can make a difference. They talk about it's hard and it's not easy, but it's worth it. And what we've really tried to do is also take the movie and connect it to resources, because there are so many organizations out there today that are doing informal after-school programs, STEM programs, universities doing programs, your museums doing programs that parents just don't know about, counselors don't know about it, and girls don't know about it. So we hope what the film does is connects them to all these resources. So if you go to thebigdreammovement.com, you can sign up in the top screen to do a screening. And as soon as you do a screening, we'll send you a toolkit. We'll send you all the information you need. In the resources section, you can put your zip code, and it brings up all the different programs that are available in your area. And then for all of you, if you have programs, we ask you go to the resources tab, and it has a little section that says submit your program, and then you can add your program to the database. And our hope is that we can finally create an international database of all the STEM activities, informal and formal, that young girls can participate. And then we have a ton of virtual resources on there. So if they don't have them in their school, or there may not be a program in their area because they live in some far-reaching area that there's not many resources, they can at least get them online. And so we hope that it's a start of getting us all to change the message. And so we hope all of your tech centers have screenings and
so this is an invitation for people who are watching and listening to us for today and in the future to just connect to that website or just send a message to ASTC and find out more about it, so that the more screenings, the more happy you are, and so are we. So, you know, and it's free, right?
Yes, it's totally free. And I think the other important thing is it's important to have boys and fathers attend the field, because the one thing that we found that is holding girls back is that they're peers. So boys make fun of smart girls. Boys don't want to date girls who are in those classes. And so we're specifically going out to boys saying, trust us, when you get older, you don't want to have a class of all boys and no girls in them, you know, and it's very important for big brothers and little brothers to encourage your sisters to go into these fields. And dads, it's really important for you to go make with your daughter and build with your daughter and go play a game with your daughter. And so I think that that's the one thing we don't want to happen, is just only moms and daughters go to the film, but that we also have boys and dads.
Rane, thank you so much. Our time is up from what we had foreseen. I've been fascinated by your story, and I hope our viewers have been as well. So thanks for being the first guest here. I will remember everyone that you can have these resources. They can connect with the ASTC, and we will provide all the information that you just gave us. Can we share the PowerPoint that you had with the people who asked for it? Of course. Good. Then we will certainly do that. Thank you again. And for the others, stay tuned over the next days for the name of the guest of next month. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Walter. Bye-bye.
Bye.